Results are in from the Wisconsin primary election, and the stage is set for the two biggest races in November for governor and the U.S. Senate. And to recap the election results, I'm joined now by our chief political reporter, Charles Benson. So, Charles, a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, and here we go. We've got 90 days until November. Let's start with the governor's race. It was a big win for Republican businessman Tim Michels. He spent millions of dollars of his own money, and he picked up the endorsement of former President Donald Trump to beat Rebecca Clayfish. Michels now faces Democratic Governor Tony Evers in November. And now to the Democratic U.S. Senate primary. Mandela Barnes easily won the top spot to face Republican Senator Ron Johnson in the general election that will be in November. He had 78% of the vote, winning in a landslide after his top three challengers dropped out and endorsed him. So let's talk about the two big races and the next 90 days with our political panel. We are joined by Milwaukee Democrat State Representative and former Lieutenant Governor candidate David Bowen and Republican strategist and advisor to Tim Michels' campaign, Bill McCoshen. Thank you both for being here. I want to start with Michels versus Evers in the governor's race. Here's what Tim Michels said last night about Tony Evers.
And I'll tell you what, Tony Evers, he's failed the people of Wisconsin. From COVID to Kenosha, he's been a weak leader. And we are going to make him unessential worker come November.
So, Representative Bowen, let me start with you. Republicans in the legislature have resisted many of Governor Evers' big changes. How does he push back on this narrative?
I think the best way to push back for the governor is to look like the adult in the room. He's going against a candidate that would be considered very radical for the state of Wisconsin. And the direction that we see that the Republican Party is going, it is contributing to this implosion that we see that's creating a pretty big dumpster fire, if you ask me.
Bill, for the last 40 years, Evers, or I should say for the last 40 years, a politician has been elected to the governor's office, including your former boss, Tommy Thompson.
Yep.
So what does Michels bring to the table to navigate that Madison maze of politics?
Well, he's a true outsider. I mean, I think there was always a lane for an alternative candidate to get into the GOP gubernatorial primary. I looked at it myself. Tommy Thompson looked at it. Eric Hovde. Tim Michels was the one that actually jumped in. And I think there are three pieces to his win. The Trump endorsement clearly was really important, but we forgot Tommy Thompson also endorsed him. But then secondly, he also had a compelling message. That was critical. Listen, if money was the only object here, Alex Lazary would be the nominee for the Democrats for the United States Senate. It's not. Tim Michels connected with people because he's an outsider, he's a veteran, he's a businessman. And I think that's a great contrast with Tony Evers heading into November.
So, Representative Bowen, does Evers have to make a case for himself in terms of what he's been able to do for the last 4 years?
I think he does, because we have to remind voters exactly what he's done so they can exactly see the comparison of how his leadership will differ from Michels. And it's very true that folks have just been dealing with so much in this pandemic, with the pain and brunt on their families, that they need the reminder. So the governor will have to get out there. He will have to get engaged. He will have to point out exactly the things that he's done time and time again that are proven to help this state from going into collapse. And the contrast will be different from Michels, who would have pretty much just done everything Trump would have done. And we know the decisions of the Trump administration put this whole country at risk.
So, Bill, let me ask you about the Trump endorsement. Does Michels pivot a little bit from this? I mean, he used it to his advantage in the primary. How does it look for him in November?
He's never going to run away from it. I mean, it was obviously a significant impact in him winning the primary yesterday. He ran a bunch of ads over the course of the last 90 days highlighting the endorsement once he got it. So he's not going to walk away from it. But I think you're going to see him pivot to issues that are more connect more with general election voters. He did talk specifically about issues that primary voters on the GOP side cared about. For the last 90 days, the next 90 days, you're going to see him talk about the economy, education, energy, and crime. I think those are going to be the four biggest issues. And you're not only going to see him talk about his vision for them, but contrast that with Governor Evers.
All right, let's talk about a game on between Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson. Here's what Barnes told his supporters last night about Johnson.
The one thing that he does not understand is that each and every single one of us and every community across this great state has so much more in common with one another than we'll ever have with self-serving, out-of-touch politicians like Ron Johnson.
All right, Bill, I'll start with you. Democrats have already made this race all about Johnson. He wants it to be, though, about inflation and immigration. What issues decide this race?
I think it's even simpler than that, Charles. I think if Ron Johnson's able to make the case to the people of Wisconsin, if you like the direction of the country, if you like the leadership of Joe Biden, then Mandela Barnes is your guy. If you want a dramatic change, I'm your guy. I think it's that simple. I know the Democrats are going to try and run on a bunch of things that Ron said or purportedly said over the course of the last 6 years. The reality is that isn't what matters to voters. What matters to voters is they're disappointed in the direction of the country and they want to see a dramatic change.
Representative Bowen, Republicans will try to claim Lieutenant Governor Barnes is untested and maybe too liberal. What issues help get him across the finish line?
I think it's the issues that everybody asked for. And we have to look at what are average Wisconsinites requesting in their issues. Right now, it's affordable health care. Right now, it's lowering costs. Right now, it's making sure that we have more accessible living wage, high wage jobs for folks that live in our communities. We know that Mandela Barnes is on the right side of those issues. It's about making sure that they can see that Ron Johnson also is on the wrong side of those issues. I think that'll be a very easy contrast, and it won't be about making the trying to take the minds of voters. I think a lot of people actually have their mind made up. It will come down to who is inspired to show up on Election Day.
All right, Representative Bowen and Bill McCoshen, thank you both for being here. We look forward to the conversation down the road.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Charles.
Simone?
All right, interesting perspective right before election, about 3 months. So hey, if you would like a full recap of all of the election results, we made it super easy for you. All you have to do is scan this QR code right there on your screen and you'll be taken to our Decision 2022 page listed on our website. From there, you'll be able to see all of the results from the primary election.